My name is Azubila Emmanuel Salam, and I'm Executive Secretary of Anchoring Democracy Advocacy Movement Ghana. In short, it's ADAMGH. And as a civil society organization that anchors proper democratic principles, we are always making sure we put government and democratic leaders on check so that we can be able to protect our democracy. The reason why we are here this morning is to break the news to you about our organization concerns. One of our concerns have to do with what we call third term agenda of President John Mahama. The third term agenda argument started immediately he won power, and it keeps on escalating day in, day out. We heard quite recently the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, he went to your sister station, Joy News, and made it clear that the president wouldn't go for third term. Immediately he made that statement. The following day or 2 days later, we heard the majority leader in parliament in charge of government business also coming out to say third term is imminent. Right after that, on the 31st December, the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress also reinstated that the third term is no, and he went ahead to describe those who are calling for third term that they are sycophants and bootlickers. But before even the 31st December, where the General Secretary made that statement, our organization, ADAMGH, represented by myself, I have sent a case to the Supreme Court, and we have filed a case successfully. And if you see the document I'm holding, that is the writ from the Supreme Court. And we have a case number J1/4/2026. What it means is that this particular case in the Supreme Court is the fourth case that the Supreme Court will be determined this year. And the writ reads, the press conference is just to introduce the writ to the media so that those who are calling for third term, those who are making unnecessary commentary, creating tension in the country, they will be measured in their commentary. Other than that, they are likely to face contempt so far as this particular case is concerned. And it reads, writ to invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court pursuant to Article 2+1 and 130+1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, 1992, and Rule 45+1 and 2 of the Supreme Court, between Azubila Emmanuel Salam, house number, I shouldn't mention all, and that's the plaintiff. I'm the plaintiff, and the defendant is the Attorney General. That's the Attorney General, Ministry of Justice, and Attorney General, Law House, Accra. And I will just read portions of it. In the name of the Republic of Ghana, you are hereby commanded within 14 days after the service on you of the statement of plaintiff case, inclusive of the day of service, that you are to file a cause to be filed for you a statement of defendant's case in the action of the suit of Azubila Emmanuel Salam. The nature of the relief sought is as follows. A declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of Article 66 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, a term of office for a person elected as President of the Republic of Ghana is 4 years beginning from the date on which he is sworn in as President, subject to only the office becoming vacant under Article 66+3 of the Constitution. B. A declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of Article 66+2 of the 1992 Constitution, a person shall not be elected to hold office as President of the Republic of Ghana for more than 2 terms, irrespective of whether the said 2 terms, 4 years each, are consecutive or separated by interval or break in office. C, a declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of Article 66 of the 1992 Constitution, no person is eligible to be elected as President of the Republic of Ghana for a 3rd term under any circumstances. A declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of Article 66 of the 1992 Constitution, Parliament is prohibited from enacting any law or instrument which seeks or purports to create, permit, recognize, legitimize a 3rd presidential term for any person who has already served 2 terms, 4 years in each term as President of the Republic of Ghana, irrespective of whether those 2 terms were consecutive or separated by an interval or a break in office. E, any further or other orders as this honorable court may deem fit, just equitable and necessary to preserve and enforce the integrity of the Constitution and sanctified parameters within which a person can be president if ever elected. We now have the capacity in which the plaintiff bring this action. The plaintiff bring this action in his capacity as a citizen of the Republic of Ghana, who is interested in the protection, preservation, defense of Ghana's constitutional democracy and the constitutional fundamental human rights of all Ghanaians, and seeks the interpretation and enforcement of specific provisions of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, 1992, pursuant to Article 2 Clause 1 and 130 Clause 1 thereof. Introduction of the case. I will read it because it's a court document. When you hear my lord, don't be surprised. It's not referring to the media. My lord, the plaintiff herein has issued a writ to invoke the original jurisdiction of the Honorable Court, seeking the following relief. A declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of Article 66 Clause 1 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, a term of office for a person elected as President of the Republic of Ghana is 4 years beginning from the date on which he is sworn in as President, subject only to the office becoming vacant under Article 66 Clause 3 of the 1992 Constitution. B, a declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of Article 66 Clause 3, Clause 2 of the 1992 Constitution, a person shall not be elected to hold office as President of the Republic of Ghana for more than 2 terms, irrespective of whether the said 2 terms, 4 years each, are consecutive or separated by an interval or a break in office. 3, a declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of Article 66 of the 1992 Constitution, no person is eligible to be elected as President of the Republic of Ghana for a 3rd term under any circumstances. A declaration that upon a true proper interpretation of Article 66 of the 1992 Constitution, Parliament is prohibited from enacting any law or instrument which seeks or purports to create, permit, recognize, legitimize a 3rd presidential term for any person who has already served 2 terms, 4 years each term as President of the Republic of Ghana. I'll go to the facts and particulars of the case. In 1992, the people of the Republic of Ghana, having resolved to return to constitutional and democratic governance, adopted the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, 1992, hereinafter referred to as the Constitution. As the supreme law of the land, the Constitution was intended to serve as the guiding framework for governance, the exercise of public power, and Ghana's relations both domestically and internationally. By the virtue of Article 1, Clause 2 of the Constitution is supreme, and any enactment, policy, public act which is inconsistent with any provision of the Constitution is to the extent of the inconsistency void and of no effect. Accordingly, all organs of state, including Parliament, the executive, and the judiciary, derive their authority and legitimacy solely from the Constitution. One of the most critical constitutional safeguards established to protect Ghana's democratic order is the limitation placed on the tenure of the high executive office, namely the office of the President of the Republic of Ghana. This safeguard is contained in Article 66 of the Constitution, which regulates the term of office and eligibility of persons to be elected as president. The exceptional circumstances of this case, my lords, the exceptional circumstances of this case is to respectfully invite the Honorable Court to deal with anticipatory threats. And I repeat, to deal with anticipatory threats to constitutionalism. The plaintiff is seeking the interpretation and enforcement of Article 66 now before this Honorable Court, because there is a very reasonable apprehension of breach. First, there are public debates and statements, including the majority leader and the leader of government business in Parliament, suggesting a third term might be possible for a president who has had the great honor and privilege of serving in the high office of the Republic for 2 terms. These arguments in Parliament signal a real eminent controversy over constitutional limits. The plaintiff therefore argues that a constitutional right or duty is genuinely at risk even before any formal act occurs. My lord, the plaintiff argues again that subjecting presidential term limit to political and public speculation without judicial clarification could create confusion and ultimately erode public confidence in the constitutional stability. My lord, it is the strong case of the plaintiff that the Supreme Court has the jurisdiction to interpret constitutional terms relating to tenure, thereby clarifying constitutional ambiguities and threat activities. Even the absence of finalized executive or legislative action. I think the remaining cases are examples of previous cases, both locally and internationally, that have to do with third term that we use to back the case in the Supreme Court. You know, the call for the third term is actually creating a lot of tension in the country. And this tension needs to be stopped at a point. We know currently the MPP is busy organizing themselves for their presidential primaries. So they have not even joined this particular pressure and tension. It is within the government party that is always giving to each other back and forth. If we don't seek the Supreme Court interpretation of this particular issue, for the Supreme Court to bring finality to this matter, what will happen is that it will create a lot of tension and disunity among us as citizens. Now, others are genuinely calling for the third term through the exceptional performance of the president. There's no doubt about that. People are genuinely calling for the third term for President John Mahama through his exceptional performance as president for 1 year. And however, others are also doing so through sycophantic characteristics. And in fact, the character of certain people around even the president is actually irritating a lot of Ghanaians when they hear people talking about the president going for third term, which is even unconstitutional. What we are seeking the Supreme Court to do here is to put finality to this particular third term. And the issue here is not about the ambiguity of Article 66, Clause 2, 1 and 2, which state categorically that it is 4 years is 1 term, and the president have 2 terms, which is 8 years. When you come to this particular, the reason why this case is necessary is that the break in office is where people are interpreting that he sat home 8 years, coming back. Can he do another 8 years, or it's only 4 years? And this is the case of the issue at hand. And this is the reason why we are calling you today as media that is also known as the fourth arm of government, to also add your voice for us to clarify this particular issue and make sure we protect our democracy and our dignity. And we know the democracy that we are enjoying today is our bragging right. And we should not allow people sycophantic characteristics and other selfish interest or self-centered interest to erode the cherished democracy that we are all enjoying. So we are calling on the Supreme Court to interpret Article 66, Clause 1 and 2. And if it is possible for someone to go beyond the Article 66, Clause 1 and 2 because of the break, and if it is not possible, I think the Supreme Court will also deal with the matter. And the caution we are sending out there is that people should be circumspect in their commentary over this particular case currently in court. I think as the General Secretary came out with his sycophantic statement, there are a lot of reactions all over. Others are supporting, others are against, and it is here and there. People are saying a whole lot of things. What we are seeking to do now is that people should put it on hold until the Supreme Court determines. Anybody who can put himself in the shoe of the Supreme Court and will project himself to be passing judgment over this particular case, we as a civil society organization will not hesitate to draw the Supreme Court attention for the person to face contempt cases. So we thank you so much for your time, and thank you for coming, and Happy New Year.